morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, whatever time of day you are joining us. This is the Victory Royal Wrestling Podcast. Joining me today is my buddy, 6'12", Dylan Gilbert, and I am one half, one third, one seventh of the faction of Louisiana, the pillar, the thing that is holding up Louisiana wrestling. And Dylan, how are we doing, buddy?
Man, we're doing good, man. This has been one of those weird weeks of wrestling, but I'm
Yeah.
I'm kind of I'm ready to talk through some of this because it's there's been no shortage of dirt sheet drama this week, and I love and hate it
Yeah.
at the same time.
It's a strange one, man. We're on a slight low of things. Pay-per-views are a couple weeks out from now, so they're trying not to push too hard, but they're still going in and out. If it's your first time joining us, we do a recap of everything around here in wrestling, whether that's Monday Night Raw, Friday Night SmackDown, Dynamite, Rampage on AEW. Sometimes we'll throw in TNA or New Japan, even Pro Wrestling Noah, depending on where we're at, and sometimes, depending on the weekend, Pro Wrestling 225. But I hate you.
Quiet
Terms that
callbacks are the
shall
best
not be
callbacks.
named. But I guess we should just start it right off. Start of the week, Monday Night Raw. Big hitters. First off, main event of the show. Rey Mysterio, Zelina Vega versus Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio. We finally get the big Dirty Dom Liv Morgan payoff, and all of a sudden the music crashes, and none other than mommy herself, Rhea Ripley, comes storming through. What do we got? We need to get the prediction board out. We've hit
Yes.
prediction boards freaking all week. I think last week we even said that Rhea was going to come back on this episode.
I think we said it on the podcast last week that like she was coming back this week because they set it up the week before Money in the Bank, and it was the most obvious point for her to come back, and they didn't do it. And I said, well, they don't have plans for it, Money in the Bank,
Yep.
so maybe the week after. And sure enough,
Here she comes.
we've watched a few episodes of wrestling in our days.
Yeah.
One or two.
Yeah. Maybe even been a part of a couple shows. It's fine.
We get this stuff, man.
Absolutely. Yes, I think put it on the board. SummerSlam, Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley, gotta happen.
Now, do they put the custody of Dominic on a poll?
See, that's the question. I think that's the true question. I think it even may be a ladder match as a joke. Put the women's title match in a ladder match and run it as a joke. Everybody would get the joke, even if it's not custody of Dom. But
Right.
who knows?
It does not stop the memes, and
No,
it
no,
will
no.
never stop the
It
memes.
won't stop the memes. It'll be a meme until the day we die. And we, as far as we're aware, aren't dying anytime soon. So, knock on wood.
Keep those fingers crossed.
Yeah, for real. And then the second big hitter is Wyatt Six, Uncle Howdy, putting on another bomb promo with the VHS being turned over by who we assume is Nikki Cross. I don't think it's been quite confirmed yet.
I think that's the only one in the video package that was not confirmed because you saw Joe Gacy, you saw Dexter Loomis, and you saw Eric Rowan.
Correct.
But you didn't see Nikki's face, and I'm wondering if that's not intentional.
I don't know.
For the way that they have put detail into every square inch of this storyline. I mean, even back to when it was just like the QR codes on the screen and where they fell and everything. There has not been an unintentional move made in this.
No.
So I'm wondering if maybe there's some intent behind that, maybe not. But
Who knows, man? But I'm sure there is. I'd be interested to see where it goes.
right?
But like you said, we did confirm Joe Gacy as
As I guess Huskins the pig boy would be
Huskins,
the actual.
Huskins the pig boy.
If we're going by the names of the puppets,
For now, we have to go by the names because we don't have anybody else.
right? So that would also have Dexter Loomis being Mercy the Buzzard, and he even
Eric
makes
Rowan.
the reference to showing Mercy as that face pops up, which I thought was great.
Well, and like he did the same for for Joe Gacy. He was like a glutton for punishment, and then
Right.
skip jumps to the pig mask. And we're like, that's cool. Gluttonous pig, husking.
Well, and then he said, or cast out or cast aside when Rowan was there because he was released from the company and came back
Right.
for this.
Rowan being Rambling the Rabbit.
Yep.
Puppet name, at least. And then...
Which, again, I like the details in this thing that I love is if you look at the back of the Ramblin' Rabbit mask, it's the like skull mask from Bludgeon Brothers, but it's Harper's skull. Yes. And I was like, man, that's
amazing.
To the T, like they're nailing every small detail in this thing.
Absolutely.
I pray to the wrestling gods they don't blow this when they finally put it in the ring. Because everything up to this point has been perfection.
If anybody's going to do it, it's going to be, like, not mess it up, but if anybody's going to do it right, it's going to be Taylor.
Yeah.
Taylor Wyndham, freaking Bo Dallas, Uncle Howdy, whatever you want to call him, which we confirm later in the show.
Yes.
That good old Adam Pearce and Chad Gable are having a conversation. Adam Pearce goes to step into his office. There's none other than Bo Dallas. Now, we were questioning whether Bo Dallas was going to be kind of a thing without the mask, or if it was going to be Taylor Wyndham. We confirmed via WWE YouTube, because of a promo, that Bo Dallas has appeared. Therefore, he is still going by the name Bo Dallas. But whether he wrestles as Bo Dallas, or he wrestles as Uncle Howdy, we still don't quite know yet.
I love that they're, like, we talked about this off air. I think they're pacing this thing like a horror movie. They're giving you just enough information to keep you hooked, but they're building attention. They're not hot-shotting this thing in any way, shape, or form. It is just a slow, gradual build, and they're burning it just slow enough. Like it's keeping your interest, and when this thing finally goes just full tilt, like a good horror movie, when you finally see what the monster is capable of, man, I think it's gonna hit hard. I'm hoping we bring back those like kids crying in the front row, like when the Undertaker used to come out.
Yes, and if we can talk rumors here for just a second, because it's not like this is gonna blow up in the millions for saying this. We have a little bit of Alexa Bliss action going on.
Yeah.
There's potential for a Bliss return, which means, of course, there is even more potential for the Wyatt Six to finally become six.
I think the only two ways to do it is have her be the sixth, or have the sixth be like Bray, kind of like unspoken.
Right.
And that's the only two, man. Like that.
Yeah.
To
as
me,
much as I think Alexa did awesome in her singles runs outside of the Playhouse or whatever. I think she'd do awesome. I think she wants to continue the Wyndham legacy, but we'll see what happens. As far as I'm aware, it takes a good bit to come out of a pregnancy, especially with as much time as she took off.
Right. And I mean, just I saw a clip, I think today. I don't know if it got posted today or yesterday, but it was her hitting the Twisted Bliss on the ring looked like it was a crash pad ring almost.
Okay.
So like when she landed, I mean, she just like sunk into a padding, but it looked like a normal ring, so it wasn't like a ring with a crash pad. Okay. So I'm wondering if they don't do something like that, so like you're getting, because it looked like the same fall, like as she would go from like top rope to, but I mean, as I'm sure you're well aware, wrestling rings are not like padded, especially to that degree.
They're not padded trampolines. They are not padded, and they are not trampolines.
But I'm wondering if that's not something like at a school where they have like, hey, this is where you go learn your high spots.
Yes.
But I mean, she hit Twisted Bliss like perfectly, at least in the video. Now, granted, it probably took her 40 tries to that point to like get confidence back and get timing back. Who knows? But that one that they posted looked like 2015, 2016, where she was just like clean, perfect flip. Man, I'd love to see her back. She was so good.
Oh yeah. And then we got a few more bits and pieces of Raw, but those two were the main kind of talks. Fast forward to Tuesday on NXT. Big things that happened on NXT that we kind of speed through because we really didn't talk about this before planning. But MSK and the Rascals,
Yeah, buddy.
dude. I'm stoked. I love all three of those guys. I hate to admit that I did not understand their shtick when they first came out and they were first taking indie bookings and when they first got signed to TNA, to the point that when MSK got signed to NXT, I didn't understand.
Right.
And then if the t-shirt doesn't sell it, I got onto the pillar and it was three guys that just wanted to be goofy and have fun and show the world that they are not only the top of wrestling, but that you can have fun while doing it.
They did a segment in TNA. I'm 90% sure it was like it's a like that '70s show kind of thing where they're in the circle and it keeps cutting back to each guy because
Yes.
as you're I'm sure well aware, those guys they partake in similar vitamins as Rob Van Dam.
Correct.
And so it's the whole thing where they're talking about this like legendary figure, and I hear he could do this and that, and it's all these like just total stoner lines, and then like the camera turns and it's Rob Van Dam, but like he's the light shining behind him like an angel, and then it ends up with these guys hitting like Rob Van Dam's moves, but like they're flying across screen so you can't really see them. And it's Rob Van Dam laughing at him like, man, I thought this stuff was supposed to make you like way more mellow than this.
That's awesome.
And I was like, that is, dude, if anything has ever summed up that group perfectly, like it was that. They were just, they're there to have fun. And I love it.
And then we saw the return of none other than Joe Hendry. Nope, still doesn't happen. One of these days he's going to come out of the closet. But no. We had a snippet at the end of Heat Wave where it was literally just a frame of his face.
Like it was
up.
It was a little bit more than I watched the clip back, so it's literally it's Ethan Page holding up the title, which awesome, totally deserved, and then it's just Joe Hendry doing the turn into the camera and smile, and then boom, and so it was like 2 seconds, but it set the internet
he came back and he teamed with Trick. They won their match. I'm stoked to see him. Joe Hendry, as goofy as his song and all of that is, we've been watching him since WCPW days.
Yep.
And we know how talented he is.
I'm so glad people are catching on to him. Like, he was one of those guys that I knew, like, even back then, it's like, man, there's something special about this dude, and when it clicks, it's really gonna take off.
Absolutely.
Apparently, beating Taylor Swift in the iTunes charts one day happened, which is insanity.
It's nuts. It's nuts.
He's got me paying attention to Impact. Him and Brian Myers have me paying attention to Impact.
Yes. Next up, we got Dynamite. We know what the big talking point is, but let's speed through the beginning. Brian and Hangman put on another classic. Once again, put it on the prediction boards. We had Brian going and winning this tournament so that he could face Swerve Strickland for the heavyweight title in All In. One last shot, one last chance.
Man, that makes sense. That's two guys from the Pacific Northwest scene. And I think it's one of those, like, it's very obvious that they're like Swerve is being legitimized in this run. If you're gonna have him take a win that matters, that's the one.
Yeah.
And it is worth noting that Danielson has said this is his last year or like last run as a full-time professional wrestler. So, I mean, I'm hoping we get some times where I think he's going to come back when the matches are right, when the time is right. But
for sure.
If anyone's going to send him off into the sunset, like it does make sense to have it be a guy that came up in the same scene as him. They,
probably looked up to him, took a lot of styles and moves from him. Though Swerve was a little more high fly, but he still technical, solid.
Yeah.
He's got the looks to kill. But at the end of that match between Brian and Hangman, we had Hangman storm off, go backstage, and go banging on the Elite's door. Now, one thing I loved is you automatically set up a little bit of heat between Okada and Hangman. With their history that have gone down before out in New Japan and Ring of
Yep.
Honor and all that stuff, it sets it up perfectly. We are definitely in the future getting a contest between those two guys.
Oh, and it's going to be great.
But then you have the Young Bucks stepping in and going, no, we got this. And he just goes, I'm in, and walks off. Of course, previously in the night, because I forgot to recap it, Swerve said he's going to be team captain for Blood and Guts.
Yes.
Hangman says he's in. He is the 5th member of the Elite for this match. That, dude, we've seen the Texas Death Match between Swerve and Hangman. If we'd had no confirmation that Blood and Guts was going to be Blood and Gutty, we sure as crap do now.
Dude, I mean, those two being a part of it with, I think I joked about last week with the, like, CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, like, how much more, how much further can this go?
Yeah.
This is one of those where it's like, I don't know how much further these two can go, but I know I'm along for the ride.
Yeah.
And if we're putting up the dry erase board, go ahead and put it on the board. I'm saying we've got All In, but let's not look past the fact that All Out is 2 weeks later. And I think you had in that Owen final 2 legitimate contenders for Swerve's title. And I think he faces them both. I am putting it on the board right now. Hangman is going to end up challenging him at All Out. I just feel it. Put
it on the board, dude.
Put it on the board. I feel it. It just seems like they're obviously not like that. Owen loss was obviously not Hangman going like, all right, well, may the best man win.
Right.
Hangman,
No, you can see it.
He lost and he immediately took off to be like, all right, I'm in.
Yep. But
And if he's willing to go through blood and guts, what's another match?
it's gonna be nuts, dude. It's gonna be nuts.
It's gonna be good.
That's in 2 weeks. But
Yes.
what we have next week might blow the roof off of Dave Meltzer's butt.
Meltzer's gonna have a heart attack.
Meltzer's gonna have a heart attack, and freaking Jim Cornette is gonna have a literal heart attack. You have Will Ospreay versus MJF, set up perfectly by Will Ospreay.
Yes.
And I love Will, and I love his special little ADHD brain to death. You could tell that entire promo. That dude was trying so hard not to cuss.
Oh, man.
I feel like every other word, he was, and I'm telling you, just trying his hardest, and I love him to death.
I really think that like he was trying his absolute damnedest not to say a certain word that the folks in the UK use liberally that the
Yes.
United States audience is not okay with.
Correct.
And
TV is especially not okay with.
I'm telling you, I think it was one of those where it's like he had a perfect opportunity to be like, this person is that word. And he's like, don't. Like, you could tell Ospreay was like grabbing hold of words and try to pull him back.
I have a very strong feeling that someone grabbed him before he went out there and was like, we're giving you 15 minutes of promo time. Do not, under any circumstances, say this, or this.
And he's just like, bruv, what can I say?
You got it, bruv. Go. So, but yes, that is going to be one hell of a match.
Yeah, I think those two are, if there's not some sort of chicanery, I think those two are going to rip each other apart. In the most like beautiful, technical, violent way. I think that's one of those matches, man, where like MJF has got such a great technical and brawling style, and Ospreay hits so hard. I think they are gonna. I think they have potential to just absolutely burn it down.
And the only reason why we think there is chicanery going to come is because it opens the show. It opens the show. Now, of course, we've had Dynamite openers burn the building down.
I mean, don't forget Hangman versus Omega versus Danielson, the 60-minute time limit draw. match number 1.
Yeah, they have had barn burners, and they have also had what we thought would be barn burners that ended in chicanery after 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But dude, the only thing that I hope and I pray for is that Tony Khan has paid off TNT so that he does not have to run any commercials during that match.
I think he did it in Omega Danielson. I think it's possible.
Dude, if that's a 60-minute time limit, I want them to go at least 45, and I do not want commercials. That picture-in-picture play might be the most infuriating thing, in my opinion, when it comes to I'm watching a main event and there's picture-in-picture.
See, I don't mind the picture-in-picture because at least you get to see what is happening.
Yeah.
Which I know from just from being at like a Raw taping and a Dynamite taping, it is when you are watching these matches, it is painfully obvious on Raw when they're in commercial.
Correct.
Because the action does slow down. Yes. Like I know I kind of hate the term rest hold, but you definitely see holds get locked in.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like, all right, well we're sitting in this headlock for another minute and a half.
Yep.
Versus,
right, tell me when.
Yeah, exactly. Versus like if you watch the matches on Dynamite, Rampage, Collision, whatever, they're just wrestling because the camera's still rolling. Now, of course, there's a lot of times where I'm watching the little screen and I'm like, I want to hear what's happening. Give me commentary. Come on.
Right.
I don't need to hear the damn Chili's ad, but I get it. It's the nature of the beast.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, and when you have tactical matches like that, from a wrestler standpoint, for me, I love watching tape. I love watching matches. And when you have guys doing what they do at one of the top levels in the world right now, I take notes of everything that those guys are doing. And now, oh man, I've got it on my full, 80-inch TV. And now, oh wait, crap, now it's shrunk down to 20 inches or 10 inches, depending on how freaking small the picture-in-picture is that week. Mm-hmm. And you're sitting there trying to pay attention. But it's a wild ride. But we're not even done. We got that this upcoming week. Tune in to episode 4 if you want to see the recap of that one, because we will be talking about it.
Oh, 1,000%.
The main event. Mariah May, Willow Nightingale. Willow looking to be 2-time Owen Cup Women's Champion. Mariah May having Toni Storm in her corner, doing all the works. Mariah May takes it and wins it with a roll-up, I believe.
So, what was beautiful about it was I think they weaved both storylines in perfectly. Because there was the distraction on the outside. Stokely grabs her, gets the distraction. Statlander cracks her. I think it was like a boot to the head or something like that, and then rolls in. And Mariah wins. So you don't ruin the momentum that Willow had going. And if anything, you just want to see her kick Statlander's head in even more. I mean, I don't, but most people will.
Correct.
So, huge Statlander guy. She should win every match. But
correct.
I think they did a great job of keeping what Willow's doing. It never made her look like she was less than in any way. I think it was great. But we all knew, man. Mariah was not losing that match.
Mariah took it. We had it on the board. Mariah May versus Toni Storm at All In. I think we filled out 4 or 5 predictions this week. But
I think in the twist of all twists,
anybody could have predicted. We were oh yeah, All In's in 4 weeks, 5 weeks, a month and a half, something like that. They'll slow burn it. Nope.
No, the slow burn was one of those Elon Musk fire flamethrowers. Just
yeah, no. So Toni Storm, Mariah May go skipping up the ramp, and you see Mariah stop. And you're just thinking, she's just tired from her match.
Well, yeah, they missed time to skip or something stupid.
So Toni, pats her on the back and goes, go ahead, run up there, grab your trophy. Mariah May unhooks that belt and smacks the ever-loving hell out of Toni Storm. And as soon as I remember sitting on the couch watching, with my wife, sitting there talking, doing the whole 9 yards. And I'm like, all right, cool. Like, that's another prediction off the board. Like, awesome, fantastic. And then
Check.
getting up out of my chair. Like, was barely paying attention, and all I saw was the title go across Tony's head. I was like, oh, hold on now. Okay, we're working with something. And then she just whipped Luther with the belt, did the whole 9 yards, cuts back, and Tony might be one of the bloodiest women I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Like, dude,
Non death match, that was one of the bloodiest I've ever seen.
just taking belt, smacking it with her, taking the heel.
The shoe.
Dude.
If you watch the clip back, which if you go watch the clip back, she is hitting so hard, like you're hearing the sound of like the heel clunking her head.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, she's driving it in there.
Well, and so what made it real bad was about number 5 on the shots. Tony comes up. She's like, "Oh, she's hitting me one more time," and that base of the heel comes out and just cracks Tony in the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see her just start spitting. Like,
yep.
you don't know if it's from her head, you don't know if it's from her mouth, but
either way, it looked like, I mean, just an absolute crime scene. And what got me is like you, I was sitting on the couch with my wife watching the show, and the win happens. I go, all right, perfect. This is exactly the story. Let's go. And they come up the ramp, and I was just like, wait, where's Martha Hart? Why isn't she coming out here to do another one of the, like, hey, remember I was married to Owen, and we have to be like, look, yeah, you're married to one of the greatest, taken too soon, all the respect in the world, but I don't need to listen to you talk 5 minutes every time. And so I was like, what? Where is Martha? Oh my God. It was just, my eyes got big. And it was, I think if you talk to any wrestling fan, it was like, obviously Tony's going to turn on Mariah.
Got to.
Obviously. When Mariah turned, it was the shock. And then somewhere in the shock, it just clicked with me. I was like, this is the perfect story. This is how it needed to be told. Story. This is how it needed to be told. And we were so caught up in what Tony's been doing. We're treating Mariah like an afterthought, and her doing all this ensures she will never be the afterthought. And beautiful.
It of course comes out on Twitter and through Reddit threads and all this other stuff that this plot line is taken out of a 1950s Hollywood film. And I go, there's no way. And then I went and looked up the movie and read the plot, and it is straight out of a 1950s. So just applaud all around to these guys, because it starts with a young girl coming in and through a friend meeting a famous actress, and that young actress taking the older actress's costumes and trying them on and pretending to be her and helping her as much as possible, and then getting to the big time and just taking her spot in Hollywood. And it's just, like, as soon as I read the plot, I was like, this all makes sense now.
Oh, it's amazing, man. Like, I straight up said to my wife watching the segment, I was like, I usually say, like, when something hits me that hard, I was like, man, this is art right here. I turned to her, I was like, this is freaking cinema. Oh, this is not even art anymore. This is cinema. This is storytelling.
Bring your film, bring your camera. This is cinematography right here.
It was beautiful. Sure. Like, as beautiful as someone being bludgeoned with a high heel can be. But, I mean, dude, what a moment.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's the, like, wrestling as matches and moments. That's one of those matches you remember, and that's one of those moments you remember. And I think, like, putting those two together that way.
Remembering that moment for a very long time, or at least until the end of All In, because that is her official render now.
Yes.
Is Mariah May with Toni Storm's blood on her face. So
with the blood on her face, the gear that Tony, like, bought for her.
Yes.
And the belt that she, like, blasted Tony with. I mean, just
good
beautiful.
Times. Good times.
Love it.
And then we fast forward. Thursdays, nothing happens in wrestling world unless TNA. Is it typically TNA? I can't remember.
I think they're Man,
I thought they were kind of Tuesdays or something.
I think they're Tuesdays.
I don't know. We'll figure it out. We're really bad wrestling fans, even though we do a podcast on it. And then Friday, we got a couple of shows. Talk about SmackDown. First thing I want to talk about, we almost had a Tiffy Time champion.
Almost, man. So
almost.
Close.
But Nia Jax talks her out of it.
I mean, that's one of those weird pairings in wrestling. But I mean, the beatdown of Bayley, I mean, completely left her incapacitated. And when Stratton went to hand the briefcase in, I was like, no way they're doing this right now.
Yeah,
and then she puts it in the ref's hands, and like I go from kind of half paying attention to like I'm sitting up, I'm ready.
Yep.
And when Nia Jax comes in, that seems to me like maybe sowing a little bit of seeds. Maybe
it's gotta be.
Maybe we see Tiffany cash in. Part of me hopes that this is a SummerSlam cash in or an after SummerSlam cash in, like maybe night after or whatever.
I was gonna ask what you thought. I think there is potential. There's got to be a beatdown of some kind. The way I see SummerSlam going, you have a king and a queen.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them are not winning. They're not.
Right.
Both of them are not winning. As in, you cannot have both king and queen win at SummerSlam.
One of them has to not win, so it doesn't seem like the obvious.
Correct. So what I think is Nia Jax sends Bayley through the ringer. Bayley somehow pulls the Sami Zayn Braun Breaker story of just barely coming out unscathed. And then Tiffy cashes in at the end with the aftermath of a broken champion. Capitalizes, wins the title at SummerSlam in Cleveland. Takes it home, does whatever. And then we start a Bayley-Tiffy feud. Or potentially for maybe the first pay-per-view after a Tiffy-Nia-Bayley feud. Which I'd be okay with. It will eventually, if I had to guess, it will eventually lead to a Bayley-Tiffy feud. So we'll see what happens. But
So my thought is, I mean, don't let the crowds fool you. Tiffany's heel right now.
right.
But when she went to cash in, the overwhelming response, at least from my memory, was positive.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of wondering if it's not a situation where like her and Nia feud, or like maybe she turns on Nia, and then that's the feud. Because I mean, I think that was kind of what I think is maybe that was the seeds being sown right there with like Nia stopping the cash in. Maybe you do a little bit of the like you're the vet trying to slow me down. I'm the rookie on the rise, and like let them hash it out. I mean, I would not mind Bayley and Tiffany feuding, because I think they would seem like they would both have put on some absolute bangers.
If Tiffany Becky was any proof in NXT, Tiffy Bayley would burn the house down.
Oh yeah.
And then next thing we have on SmackDown, DIY retain their titles against Grayson in theory, Waller in theory, and then just destruction, just all out destruction.
The Samoan werewolf is not a man to be trifled with. If the WWE faithful did not know this, they know it now. That dude is the real deal. He's been the real deal. He will continue to be the real deal.
So here's the deal. On Monday Night Raw, we have a literal horror monster stalking in the background.
Yes.
On SmackDown, we have a streets monster, dude. Like, this dude will beat the tar out of anybody and not blink twice. Now, the question that I have is who takes him out?
That's a good question.
So here's what we got. I don't know if it's been announced yet, but rumors and the way the story is going, Cody versus Solo is happening at SummerSlam.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense. We are definitely getting bloodline interference. If I had to guess, Randy, Kevin, maybe even Sammy come in and kind of fight them off. I do. Oh no! So we've got SummerSlam. Work the camera, Blake. SummerSlam, Bash in Berlin, and then I believe we might have Survivor Series or something close. And we've been
Now,
doing
Survivor
War
Series is
Games.
usually like Thanksgiving.
Oh well, then just call me stupid. So anyway,
Learn
but
to show,
we can
kid.
set up something.
Yeah.
And yeah, we just did the multi-man Bloodline versus WWE bit, but many speculations. There's many predictions we could pull. I'm pulling either a Roman return at SummerSlam, or I'm pulling a Randy turn at SummerSlam.
Ooh, Randy Turn would be
I,
interesting.
a turn has to be coming for Randy. It has to be. As many times as that dude has eyed up the championship on
Oh yeah.
Cody, I know we're on his last run. He's got to do it, and we'd love to see it. So a turn on Randy's got to happen before Mania, because I have a very strong feeling Randy's going to call it in the next year or two. Got to happen. Roman coming back. We know Roman's coming back eventually. We don't know when.
I think that's I've heard rumblings is like rumor is he could be returning to TV the next few weeks. I'm thinking like let it slide a little bit longer.
Yeah, why not?
To me, I'm like the nothing about the Bloodline storyline has happened quickly.
No.
Everything has kind of slow burned to the point where you're just like, oh my god, something has to happen, and then it happens, and you're just like shocked by it. I looked it up. Bad Blood is the next one, and that's in October.
Correct.
So we've
Bash in
got
Berlin is in September.
SummerSlam on the 3rd of August. We've got Bash in Berlin on the 31st, and then we've got Bad Blood October 5th. So you're going to have a good
Okay.
month and change to Bad Blood after Bash in Berlin.
Yeah. So we got some time to burn.
You've got time to burn. And then once you
But
hit Survivor Series, you kind of unofficially start the march towards WrestleMania.
yeah, you start boosting so that you can get up the hill, and then Royal Rumble is when we tip down that roller coaster.
That's when you start the road to WrestleMania.
So I'll go back to my question: who takes out the Samoan werewolf?
It is going to take some serious doing, because if you watch that segment back, and I pulled it up just to like make sure I remembered everything correctly. It is a 13-minute segment. This is not the match itself, not like the tag match, whatever. It is celebrating the like DIY celebrating the win. Fatu rolls in, starts clearing house. Fatu, one man, takes out 4 people.
Yeah.
One man takes out 2 tag team champions and 2 former tag team champions. Cleans house. And I think, I haven't taken the stopwatch out, but I think he's not down more than like 10 seconds at any given time in that
Which is nuts.
13 minutes.
Which is nuts.
I mean, Randy's hitting him with stuff, Cody's hitting him with stuff, and he gets knocked down, but he does not stay down.
Correct. Yeah, man. And then, we look back at Money in the Bank during that multi-man match where he takes a DDT from Randy. Randy spins around to do the RKO, and Fatu's already up.
Yep.
And so, I mean, for me, personally, your top stars are getting destroyed by this dude. Now, sure, I did not watch the SmackDown segment. I saw the destruction, but correct me if I'm wrong. Randy has not hit an RKO on Fatu.
He has not.
Cody has not hit a Crossroads on Fatu. And we sure as crap have not seen a stunner in Fatu. So,
Maybe he is stoppable.
That can be a conversation for another time, is the work of finishes. But for me, your 3 top guys in this company right now that are the babyface, if that's what you want to call it, are not able to stop these guys. Which means you either need a real head of the table or you need some final boss energy.
Yeah.
And the final boss, if that's what takes it, we could be riding that out till Mania.
I will go ahead and say now, if the final boss returns, we are not catching a sniff of it until late January. And
Dude,
again, like
we might not be catching a sniff of it until the beginning of April,
it,
and WrestleMania's in May this year.
Paul
Like,
Heyman said, and of course, like later on, Roman kind of shot it down, whatever, refused to answer. But when we were in the real thick of it with the Bloodline, this after like WrestleMania 39, where like Sammy had gotten his moment with the tag titles, but like Cody didn't get his. They said, "Where are we in the Bloodline story?" And he said, to put it in baseball terms, I think we're in the bottom of the third.
which is
I don't
nuts.
think we've hit the sixth yet.
I don't think so. We're
I
sure.
I think we are
Hey,
firmly in the
actually,
fifth.
I'll say this. I think we're in the 7th inning stretch.
I don't
Roman
know,
Reigns
man.
taking time off. 7th inning stretch. He's gonna come back and he's gonna be ready to play ball.
I think when we finally do, and I hope that they don't start rushing it now, because I can take the Solo is not charismatic argument and just throw it in the trash. It doesn't matter. That whole segment, without many words being said, was more impactful than any promo that he could have cut. It's more impactful than anything Roman could have said. It was killers being killers. Because I mean, if you look at this we've been really hard into this stuff for 10 years plus.
Yeah.
Gorillas of Destiny and Jacob Fatu
Are in
just
not only
annihilated.
WWE
Just annihilated Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton.
and Kevin Owens.
Well, Kevin Owens didn't come out for the
Owens
seg.
wasn't there? Yeah,
He
okay,
wasn't
never
there.
mind.
No,
I could
I
have
think-
swore that I've seen him laid out.
No, he has been part of it, but like he didn't come out for that segment, and I
Okay.
made the joke that he was just like, "Have you seen that guy? I'm not getting myself killed for that. Sammy, get me out of here."
Which is nuts.
But if you'd have said in 2016, like there's going to be a segment in a few years where the Gorillas of Destiny and Jacob Fatu beat up Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes, wrestling fans would have laughed at you. They would have
I
said
would
that's
have
the
laughed.
stupidest creator
And let's-
wrestler in
and
my
let's put that-
universe,
let's put
whatever.
that in perspective for a second. 2017, at that point, let's talk about WCPW, even though it got canceled. WCPW, Cody Rhodes, I'm pretty sure at the time was internet champion for
Mm-hmm.
WCPW. So he was strong on his indie run before he ever touched AEW, and right before he touched New Japan, I think. The Gorillas of Destiny running hot in New Japan. Constantly, if not winning World Tag League, or being challenged by the winners of World Tag League. Randy, of course, is burning it up in WWE. Kevin Owens in this feud is in NXT at this point. Actually, 2017, he might have been fresh out of NXT. But
Yes, I think he was out of NXT at that point.
still though, at that point, massive heel, killing everybody,
Mm-hmm.
doing whatever. And then Jacob Fatu was a thought.
He was
a thought that could destroy.
he was the guy that like, hey, there's another member of the Ottawahi family that's out there killing it on the independents.
Oh, yeah, what does he do? And then just throws a small dude into like 20 feet up in the air to catch him into a Samoan drop. Like, I don't want to mess with that guy.
That's one of those ones like at that point. And I think Solo was popping around the indies as like there's a third Uso out there.
Right.
So I mean, if you take like at that point in time, like, and I think that was the beginning of like I was a wrestling fan. The real rabid point was somewhere around that 2016, 2017. If you'd have said then that segment that just happened on SmackDown was going to happen, I would have been like, you're crazy. That is something I would put together in universe mode in 2K.
Either that or I had some custom figures made and done a figure.
Exactly. That's figure fed or universe mode stuff there.
Correct.
And it's happening. Like,
It's happening.
for all the like, I love WWE so I hate AEW or vice versa BS going on. There's so much good stuff happening in both companies, man. Don't let some silly argument of my side versus your side, like, two of the most impactful moments in wrestling this week were in two separate companies, and I think both hit so hard. Wrestling is
Oh yeah.
just in a great spot right now.
It's in a good spot, man. And like I said earlier in the show, it's got its ups, it's got its downs. You can't smack every show out of the park.
Right.
You can't do that on TV, let alone on the indies. Like I hate me personally, I hate showing up to shows and they're like, "Oh, we're coming off of like a 3-show hot streak." It's like, "Okay, I'm going to do everything in my power to burn it down." But odds are, like you can't kill it every time you go out there.
Well, and
Um,
you've also
but
got variables, man. Like the crowd maybe doesn't react the way that you think they will. Maybe the crowd is there's sometimes where like a crowd shocks you. You're in a small building and you're like, oh, maybe we didn't sell out like we didn't sell out the cheap seats, whatever. And then that winds up being one of the hottest crowds you have.
right,
And sometimes you pack
those
a
are my favorite.
building with people that are sitting on their hands. You can never, you can never truly dictate what people are going to do.
Correct. But that's just life.
Yeah,
You can't dictate life. You can't dictate business. You can't dictate people. Um,
you can just do
well,
what you do to the best of your ability.
correct. And that's what we're seeing is something done to the best of their ability and something possibly just thrown out. But I mean, look, we'll see what happens. But like I said, wrestling has its ups and downs. If you want proof, there's bits and pieces that we can talk about. But Rampage, I will kindly I will kindly call it the Flippy Dippy Friday, because as much as I love some lucha, some high risk, high reward. I did not watch all of Rampage, but the fact that there was literally advertised a high flying fatal 4-way,
Yep.
you lost me. I'm sorry. Like and we are gonna try a thing where we try to have a hot take conversation. We're gonna do that in just a second, though.
Yep.
We're gonna do, but yeah, that's pretty much what Friday was for me. I didn't understand it. There were bits and pieces that could have been good. Any insight on any of that?
So I will tell you I thought that Fatal 4-Way was fun. Like I don't think it was I'm not going to put it on my Mount Rushmore of matches by any means.
Oh, and it was fun.
It
Like
was
I saw
fun.
clips of it. It was fun.
I think the
Um,
real match of that night was House of Black versus Premier Athletes. Because I mean, you've got
I forgot we talked about that. Yes.
absolute killers in that ring.
Yes.
As much as like I'm a Mark Sterling guy, big major pod guy. Him as a manager is gold. I think the guys they've paired him with, Tony Nese, Davari, and Josh Woods, they're all guys with some legitimacy in their background.
Is
And so
Woods
like
a former WWE guy?
I don't think Woods is former WWE. I know he was in Ring of Honor, and I think he's got some MMA background.
Okay.
Not 100%, but I mean, you've got guys that can be absolute killers, and
Right.
I think they do a great job of making every person that they step in there with look like $1,000,000, and then you bring in a team of Malachi Black and Brody King that already look like $1,000,000, and you just one of those throw together like, yeah, we need something for Rampage, winds up being like match of the night to me. Because I mean, look, dude,
I'll
I
have to go
can't
back and
gush
watch
about
it.
Brody King enough. The dude's a freaking monster.
I'm terrified.
He is, dude. He's an absolute monster.
Absolute monster, but he's great at what he does.
And when you got a big man that can move like that,
Mm,
at that size, looking the way he looks, dude. I mean, you've got a license to print money.
absolutely.
He's so that match was, I think, everything that like I wanted to see in the night. That was like you got a little bit of high fly, you got a lot of violence, you got a lot of technical, and then they move on to as you're calling it, the Flippy Dippy 4-Way.
Yes. But yeah, dude. Collision on Saturday night. We had the return of FTR after, from the clips that I saw, a technical Dynamite Kid, Tommy Billington. Did I say that right? I
I
believe
think it's
that's
Tommy. I don't remember.
yes. Versus Takeshita,
Mm-hmm.
who we know is a phenomenal wrestler. He's great at what he does.
Cannot wait to see him in the G1.
It's gonna be fantastic.
That's so crazy.
Gonna be fantastic. The fact that we're getting like Takeshita from AEW/DDT, and we're getting some Noah guys, we're getting some New Japan guys. It's gonna be nuts.
We might have to do some G1 mini specials.
Oh, for sure.
G1's gonna go crazy.
We're gonna be recapping the G1 here. I'm calling it now. It's gonna happen. And then at the end of that match, Don Callis family beating up Dynamite Kid. That turns into FTR's return to Collision. They've been out for a couple of weeks now.
Oh, it's been a little bit because Dax was dealing with a back injury.
That is right.
And
Yes.
that was one of those things that he was out with that back injury. Apparently, he wasn't talking about, and then it became like a thing where he's like, I have to take the time off. So he came out and said something. But good to see them back, and it looks like he's healthy. I think that I think the tag division in AEW, I think wrestling on the whole is better when FTR is around.
Oh,
Those dudes
for sure.
are, next level.
For sure.
No Flippy nonsense. They're like
no pun intended, but top guys for sure.
I think what I love too is like they are that like no nonsense old school tag team, but they base for Flippy and High Fly guys so well.
Absolutely.
Like there's
Which
no
is
clash of
something that we
styles
talk
with
about
anybody.
in the hot takes.
They don't have a styles clash with anybody, dude. They
Not
just
at all.
they fit everybody.
Not at all. And then kind of speeding through, Orange Cassidy. He had what was his match that he had? It was Orange Cassidy and O'Reilly, or was it? I think it was Orange Cassidy and O'Reilly.
I don't remember the match. I just remember like the after.
And that's what we want to talk about. The moment after where he takes a massive lead pipe and beats the ever-loving sense out of Trent, carrying a feud that much further.
Dude, I mean, I've turned plenty of pipe wrenches in my day. That is not something you would ever want
Not at all.
to be swung anywhere in your general direction.
And a margin of error at the most,
Dude, I mean, you're talking
he
a couple
cracks
inches.
some- yes, a couple of inches could have been a neck, a spine, anything. Coming from somebody who's been hit with a golf club. Stay tuned for the episodes for that one.
That's gonna happen.
It's got to happen. We work with. I'm pretty sure. So that was a month before my wedding. We needed an excuse to write me out of a company for my wedding, and then I returned the day after my wedding. Don't ask questions.
Wrestling's weird, folks.
Wrestling's weird, but also I love my wife. And so my buddy, Dale, screw you.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Cracks me with a golf club, and that dude did not hold a single thing back. That the head of the driver broke off of the shaft. I had a bruise that lasted at least a month. And I was still convinced on my wedding day that I had a broken rib. I remember laughing at you, who was my best man for it, and then I sat there and immediately started clenching my rib because I could have swore that my rib was broken and I just did something to it. But all in all, the margin of error when it comes to weapons is nuts. But but to bring a feud even further into where they are.
Well, and to show that, like, Orange Cassidy, which he's one of those, like, we can talk comedy wrestling is another one of these hot take ones because I can go an hour.
Absolutely.
But Orange Cassidy, I think, is that perfect blend of comedy wrestling and great technical. Like, when you make him take the sunglasses off and the hands come out of the pockets, he is an incredible professional wrestler who has done a really great job of limiting how much punishment he's had to take because he's done the sunglasses, hands in the pockets, you do the kip up, the soft kicks, whatever. But we now are not just seeing Orange have to try. We are seeing Orange have to try with vitriol in his heart because Trent Beretta took out one of his best friends in the business.
But not only have to try, but also have to pull out everything in his arsenal.
Yes.
Because he is fighting somebody that he knows all too well.
And if he were to bring that same thing, Trent already knows it. When you've got guys with chemistry, you've got guys that have history. You've got to take things to another level, shift into that sixth gear. And I think we just saw Orange Cassidy shift into that sixth gear.
Nuts, dude.
I'm so ready.
But that's about it. Sunday we didn't have a pay-per-view. Little on the indies has happened. I saw some big thing. If I can talk about indies around us real fast, saw some big things happening in SWA. Between the varsity, I believe they're just just varsity, not the varsity, and the Daybreakers tag teaming, doing something. I am not included on that storyline, but those two are phenomenal tag teams together. They're doing something, so go check out SWA in Mississippi. Phenomenal guys. In a couple of weeks, we got some heckin' good matches with at Lost Art Wrestling, but then the night after that, we have 225's Denim Spring Show Bases Loaded.
Stacked card.
Which is a stacked card, which we can talk about as I go and promote that at the end of the episode. But when it comes to this week, that was about it. So, we're going to move on to what I am, as of right now, temporarily calling the Hot Take Hangout, where we take out a subject people sometimes love, sometimes people hate. Most of the time, me and Dylan will be agreeing on this topic, but as of right now, if it wasn't obvious by our talk about Flippy Dippy Friday, we're talking about Flippy Dippy moves and the importance of Flippy Dippy moves in wrestling. Look, I'll say it now. Like I said, I don't mind it. I don't mind Lucha Libre. I don't mind high risk, high reward. Style of Lucha Libre. The whole point of that is to use your environment to your advantage. That is why you use the ropes. You use your speed and your athletics and your small stature in some cases to your advantage to get the better of your opponent. Why is it that you turn around and you got somebody in the arm wringer and you go and walk that tightrope on the top rope, and then you drop to the middle, you drop to the top, you drop to the middle, and you drop to the top, and then you go, oh, and you almost fall over, but you're not actually falling over, you're just selling it, and then you jump off and do an arm drag real fast. Like, it's fun. I love it. It's a nice little show-off move. But when you mess it up, just mess up.
Yep.
Like,
So look, as somebody in the affirmative category, I am pro flippy shit in wrestling, as the internet will call it. I think, like you said, when you mess it up, man. One of the things that I absolutely despise is when somebody very obviously messes a spot up, and instead of like, okay, that moment is coming past, we're moving forward. Which, I mean, maybe someday we get to a ladder match that just happened in 225. A table broke that's not supposed to break. We move on
right along.
And if you're not really hardcore paying attention to like all of the X's and O's of professional wrestling, you don't bat an eye. All right, well, he's supposed to put him through that one, and you send him.
Even if you don't know the X's and O's, you sometimes don't bat an eye. I don't bat an eye half the time.
So it's one of those things, man. If something is obviously blown, and like a move doesn't connect, you slip off a rope, whatever, that moment's gone.
Yep.
Don't go back. Go forward. And so, like, I think that's one of the high. That's also part of the high risk of like the lucha style and like the flippy style. But I don't know, man. There's something to. Commander is the one that does like the up down up down up down. I think it's silly, but I mean, so is the people's elbow. It doesn't stop
Right.
arenas full of people
and that's where we talked
know.
earlier about possibly bringing on a hot take hangout. We do comedy. I love comedy. I love being goofy. If you want proof, look at my t-shirt. Go look us up. The Pillar is one of the goofiest teams that is in Louisiana and outside of Louisiana, as we hope to broaden our horizons. If you're watching this and you're a promoter, happily reach out to me. I'm Alex Braddock on Facebook. But, like, for example, in the last match that I had with Dale loved John Cena as a kid and became a wrestler because of John Cena. We did a double 5-knuckle shuffle. Just for fun. Like, we're having a good time. But what doesn't happen is that when we do a 5-knuckle shuffle, those guys are staying on the ground for 45 seconds while we set up the 5-knuckle shuffle.
Right.
Versus, all right, I'm going to go climb up to the top of this turnbuckle, and I've got to act like I'm losing my balance 45 times, and I got to hit this rope and then hit this rope and not move out of the way. Suicide dives are the same kind of thing for me. I don't want to go too much on a tangent just because
this is what we're here for.
This is my
hot
business. This is my business. To anybody that does this and is watching the podcast, I'm sorry. I do respect you, and I will work with you. Just make it make sense.
I see. That's the thing. Make it make sense. You can do 15 450s in a match if you hit a guy with something hard enough that logically in my brain I'm going, well, yeah, that dude's going to take 10 15 seconds on the ground.
Correct.
If you do some of these, like some of the lucha spots, like I think the one you pointed out, and it's probably my least favorite of Commander's spots, is like when he does, like, he twists the arm and he does like the jump up, jump down, whatever. If you're thinking with any sort of logic, why isn't the guy whose arm twisted like this just yank and sling him off? And it does happen.
Just because your arm is up doesn't mean, one, you don't have access to this arm. But two, doesn't mean you can't pull. Now, sure, if your arm, your arm is extended, but you can still move your body even though he's kind of holding you.
Right.
Logic. Sorry.
But for every moment like that, I look at, and it's another one of those like polarizing characters, but Hijo de Vikingo. I freaking love what he does because, like we talked about off air, everything he hits is quick. He's doing a lot of these things, and sometimes there is the high risk does not pay off. I mean, if you look at his match with Omega, which I thought was amazing, he does a 630, and his head hits the apron because he miscalculates, but he didn't miscalculate and go whoa and flip. He is rope flip down, and it is.
And that's what I call out about the Lucha Libre style, is they are quick, they are fast. I don't care if you do a tilt-a-whirl 45 different times. Technically, that's a hold. Doing a tilt-a-whirl 45 times. You got the guy stunned, you're holding him, whatever. But, like, when it comes to, let me bounce on the rope 45 different times, and the guy's just standing there.
Yeah.
Cool. You talk about getting hit with something. I'm a big Ospreay mark. I'll say it now. Will Ospreay is at the top of my list of top competitors in the world today. When we first started watching him in Progress, this was before he went to Japan. This is before he learned how to hit hard. Now, sure, Brit Wrestling is known to frickin' hit hard. But also, he did a lot more high-fly stuff. And then he went to Japan and learned how to hit hard. And then it made sense because he'd pop a guy with a forearm, and that guy would be down for a minute. And he was like, I'm just going to go up and do a 630 senton. No, yeah, he knocked the dude out. I don't blame the dude for not moving a muscle before Will Ospreay comes down. Jump tuck bray. But yes. But going back to Vikingo, if we're going to talk about Flippy Dippy, my favorite thing, and I sent it to you off air, I sent you a massive crucifix bomb that Vikingo did that absolutely bent the guy he was performing it to in half. Cleanest thing in the world, but it turned into it was some kind of like gut wrench that turned Vikingo into a corkscrew that hooked the guy into the crucifix. And I text you because everyone was saying Vikingo is the one of the top stars in the world right now. And I remember
I
texting
don't
you and I going,
disagree,
"Oh
but
no,
I
I
agree
don't
with.
disagree. I don't disagree either.
But I
Vikingo's up
also
there."
100% agree with
But
where you're going because I remember this.
but what I said was it just sucks because no one understands how much work goes into being the guy who takes it.
Yeah. Well, like I said earlier with FTR, like I think we've been kind of teasing this to all the way up. They they are one of those teams that is a great base for guys to do high flying offense.
Correct.
Because if we peel back the curtain a little bit on wrestling, they know how to take those spots in a way that doesn't subtract from what the other person is doing.
Yes.
So that like the combination of this man's ability to do this flip, this timing, everything, and their ability to catch it in the timing, because I mean pro wrestling happens in tenths of a second.
I will say this. Sometimes I'm not good at it. I've been a base for a Hurricanrana and dropped the dude on his head. Sorry, Brandon Collins. Um, and that's one partially inexperience. I'll call myself out on it. But also it was the sheer fact that sometimes that stuff, like you said, it happens in tenths of a second. If you are not ready at the exact moment when that stuff hits, not only do you look stupid, but you make the guy doing the move look stupid.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think that's where like a lot of people get turned off to like kind of high flying is like you see those moments where you get those matches that look like Osprey Ricochet in the G1. Everything they're doing is just boom, 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 reverse, 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 and it's happening so quickly. And like you can this can be a whole other argument later down the line about whether or not that like, oh well, they're not really simulating combat in any way. Like those dudes had a superhero fight in a professional wrestling ring,
and that's what it was.
and it blew that crowd's mind. And now I'm sure if you put those two in the ring today, they have an entirely different match because both guys have grown. They were in their early 20s doing all the flippy things they could do.
Absolutely.
I think
The
the
thing with Ricochet and Will. So the two most clips that go around with it. First off, not the G1. It was Best of Super Juniors.
Best of Super Juniors, you're right.
But they had fought a couple of times, faced each other a couple of times before the Best of Super Juniors, and then turned around about a year and a half later after they faced each other a couple more times and did the WCPW World Cup.
Yes.
And then that is the match that they broke the top rope on. While doing all the Superman things, but it shows the chemistry of two wrestlers that know that style of wrestling because it goes, all right, cool, I'm going to do a drop down. Oh, nope, you just flipped over me. Because you used your talents to do flippy stuff to get the advantage on me. So, all in all, my conclusion on this conversation is just use the flippy stuff to get advantages on people. Don't use it to be stupid.
Yeah, I think when we brought up doing this topic off air, I think the thing like the I guess metaphor I used was like, okay, if I really like garlic, I'm not biting a chunk of garlic. I want garlic to be on my steak. I want garlic to be seasoned into like it's the same as I feel about a lot of things in wrestling. I may love that thing, but if the entire match is that one thing, it doesn't have the same impact as like I mean, we're gonna talk a lot of Osprey on this. Just if you don't like Will Osprey, you will. But we're gonna talk him up enough. But I mean, like he's especially now he's hitting hard and he's throwing the flips in.
Yeah.
Make it make sense, like we said earlier. Make it make sense. If you're gonna take a guy and put him in a situation where you're gonna bounce off this rope, jump here, flip there, hit him hard enough before that it makes sense that he would at least be staggered for you to cut this flip onto him. You know,
the thing that I love is that metaphor perfectly. Is you want it to be a seasoning. If you don't know anything about wrestling, and you go out there and you just watch a bunch of guys do flips, that is just eating a clove of garlic. I can eat a clove of garlic on a trampoline. If you go out there and you see guys punching the living tar out of each other, that is just eating a freaking shaker bottle of pepper. And I can go watch an MMA fight if I want to see that.
Yep.
You are seasoning, if we can call it a steak. Sure, some steaks are not cooked as long. They may not be the best cut. They may not be anything, but there's seasonings being put on top. But the steak is the psychology. It is.
Yes.
It is what the wrestling world is. It is the business. It is the love and the passion that everyone in this business has for it. Whether you're a wrestler, you're on production, you're a referee, the camera guy, the commentator, whatever it is the steak. And everything else is seasoning on top.
Yeah.
Whether that's the way you fight, whether it's your gimmick, whether it's the way you cut a promo, it's all seasoning. And you don't want to just eat a brock full of salt. So just keep that in mind when you watch wrestling and you're like, oh no, it's too much of this.
Well,
Sometimes you hit a steak and you put too much garlic on it. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, that's some of the high flying stuff is what gets some people to pay attention. The hard hitting stuff is what gets some people to pay attention. Like, it is pro wrestling is the beauty of, and like we'll talk about this endlessly. I love this thing because it's sport, it's art, it's science. It's this conglomeration of things, and if it's entirely too much of one thing, you kind of start to lose. Like if a match is just all artsy, when they're just trying to do like the callbacks to this, that, like, it kind of loses you a little bit. So you have to bring this thing back in. That's like I love some good lucha libre, but when lucha libre goes bad, it goes very bad. I love death matches. When they're really good, it can really get your heart pumping. And when it's bad, it's two fat guys hitting each other with light tubes over and over, and it's not entertaining.
It's not great.
It's a time and a place, I think, is all of it. Like, a time and a place.
For sure. And that's anything. Yeah. You got any more comments on that?
No, man. I think we kind of hit it. Like, if you flippy stuff in wrestling, just make it make sense, and I'm totally behind it.
Make sense. Just make it make sense. Use it as a seasoning. Don't use it as the match. Dude, we did good today. We did it. I mean, after my closing remarks, probably over an hour and 15. But hey,
yeah,
it's better than an hour and 40. So we're doing great.
Tightening up the ship.
Dylan, where can they find you, dude?
So, like I said, Action Figure Weekly. We talk anything from pro wrestling, action figures, Disney, Lorcana, SEC football. Sometimes it's literally just the whatever the hell we want podcast at this point. But we are also bringing back, hopefully in the next week or so, a fantasy booking figure fed podcast centered around the AEW roster. So we did a roster split. We've drafted, and we're about to start putting stories out and stuff. So if you want to hear my stupid take on what I think AEW talent could be doing, little Lucha Underground influence.
If there is any fantasy booker I know, it is you.
I love it. Now, don't let your fantasy booking cloud your view of actual shows, because I fantasy book, but I also take the ride. Don't fantasy book and get mad when your fantasy booking isn't what WWE is doing. Take the ride. Right. But if just for a fun couple episodes of fantasy booking, what I would like to see wrestlers do, it'd be a good time. If you've listened to Major Pod's FWF, it's that kind of thing. Be a good time. Other than that, Dylan Gilbert on whatever. If you really care about my takes on stuff, I'm around.
on the lives. You can find me on Alex Braddock or the Alex Braddock. Just look it up, you'll find me. And make sure to like and subscribe on the video, because it helps us out to get to people, especially if you found us during Facebook. We don't pay for ads. Yes, it's only episode 3, but we don't have any plans to pay for ads. So just share us. If you watched it, share the link to Facebook, Instagram, whatever you want to. But in the future, there will be some things. Check out The Pillar. My buddies Braxton Hunter, Jace Miles. Check out 225, Pro Wrestling 225, company that I'm currently working for, but also we'll be working for other companies in the future. If you want to know where I'm at, just check out the social media pages. I'll be there eventually. And I think that's it. So in closing, I close the show the same way I open it. So whether it's a good morning, a good afternoon, a good evening, or good night, whatever time of day you have watched this podcast, I hope you have a lovely one. Deuces.